which month, but it's been quite a few months. And I
Mm.
was following her on LinkedIn, and she is co-founder of People Over Process, POP. So that definitely resonated with me. And then she is also a life coach, which was something that I was looking for in my life. So she's my life coach. And she did something very amazing. She unlocked something in my head because I was struggling with something, and it was this year. So, yes, there was COVID, I had a baby. There was just something which was not fitting well. So, she helped me unlock it. So, she's been coaching me, and it was just a very enlightening journey. And I'm still on the journey with her, and I asked her that why should I keep everything to myself and why not share it over here?
Mhm.
So hopefully you guys would have some aha moments today. I have gone on this journey and I'm still progressing. But over to you, Christiane. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much for making time for us, and all
Oh,
the best
yes.
to all of you guys. Welcome
Yes.
aboard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out tonight and your curiosity and hearing what it is that about to share. I suppose I want to start with this is about understanding why you do the things you do and giving you a tool that is practical for you to kind of live your life from and have ways of adapting your behavior and finding actually out what really energizes you and what you love. To give you a very sort of short overview of me. I was probably in the wrong job for about 10 years. And when I look back at that, and it's only when I really understood my energy style, and that started in 2015, my career really started to take off. But not just my career, but also how I live my life and who I surround myself with, and knowing what energizes me and what I suppose fills me up and makes me happy. So my core drivers in life, and it's really changed and turned my life around. And I started a coaching career 5 years ago. So I worked with lots and lots of people in this space and found this tool to be, or is extended this to be the most profound when it comes to behavior change and conscious awareness around who we are and what we can choose in life. And I always think everything starts with awareness, and then we move on to understanding how we're going to apply that. I like this because it's practical. It's about really actually doing something with it. A lot of personal development can be very theoretical. It can be quite good and informative, but it doesn't always translate into action. So I look for something that helps me action differently and do something with it and actually measurably change something in my life. And so this is where this tool has made a big impact, not just in my life, but also a lot of the people that I work with. And I'll talk a bit about those and what happened for those people that I've worked with. So it's really gaining understanding of how you are and can be at your best, because that's really what we want to kind of be in. And then how can we from that base stretch ourselves to the other areas, because we can't just be one dimensional, we need to also grow. So what I'm going to do is show you just go through and share my screen. We'll do a few things. Also get your pen and paper ready because we want to do some drawing. I always like drawing. I'll tell you a little bit about myself as well. And in the chat, there's the Menti code. We're going to use Menti and the code as well as, the reminder to bring pen and paper. So I'm just going to share my screen and have a bit of a talk about this. So this is extended discs, and I'll talk about what that is. So don't worry about like what it is right now. I'll go and delve into that, and I'll help you have some insights and so forth. But for now, let's just have a look at this what do you call it? An icebreaker. I always love icebreakers, and I'd love to know what made you smile today. So if you go to Menti and put that code in that you see on the screen, I'd love to know from what made you smile today. There's three options. You can just choose one to put in. So I'll wait for that to pop up. I will go the one code. Talking to a friend, your daughter. It's lovely. An old movie. My dogs. Oh, son's birthday. Happy birthday. The election. Oh, wow. That disappeared. It was just there. Oh, there it is. New word of a baby daughter. So exciting things, exciting family things. Baby, family. Trump behind the polls. Yep, that made us all smile. My dogs. So family, celebrating things together, having pets. Certainly the election is a moment at the forefront. Your partner. Someone drawing, talking. Talking with people. So thank you. So you can still put them up, but we're going to move on. So what you can see is, what we all seem to have in common is family and pets, and who rules the world too. In a way with Trump. Someone's got to leave tomorrow. I'm very excited for you. And my wife turned to fame. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's move on. So a little bit about myself and what I do. So I've been qualified in eDisk since 2016. I specialize in high-performing teams. So we've got the scribble all over it, but we'll just keep it. We'll go roll with it. That's gone. I also am an organizational relationship and systems coach. So I work with a lot of teams and organizations around change. These are my accreditations down there when it comes to eDisk. So I've done the individual one, but I also work with teams. So I've done a special education in teams and leadership, because I see the power of this tool actually applied really strongly when people are working together and understand each other's styles. So that's where I put in here, around being a team coach, and all of this, what I talk here about around resolving conflict and finding greater alignment and deepening empathy, is a lot about how do we become work better together and also become really productive and get our outcomes. So it's a foundation of delivering in the end to the customer, to value. So I specialize really in high performance coaching for teams and individuals, and from there on, move on to working with organizations. So let's talk a bit about what extended DISC is and why it is there. So extended DISC, and what DISC means, is 4 behavioral styles: dominant, an influencer, stabilizer, and compliant. And we'll go into those and we'll talk about what they are. And then you can have an opportunity to find yourself. And then really it all started with the Jungian psychology in the 1920s, and then William Moulton Marston really developed that further. And if you're not aware of it, he also is the inventor of Wonder Woman. So he did a lot in that work, though, in his book around behavioral styles and the behavior of regular people, essentially. So extended DISC, and probably if you know behavioral profiling or personality profiling, you probably are aware of MBTI and so forth. So there's lots of them there. They all kind of have similar roots. Why I like extended DISC is, for one, there's heavy R&D investment in the platform, the logic engine behind extended DISC. The assessments are quite accurate, so it's really high accuracy, and they do a lot of tests every 2 years. They retest and come back with lots of consistency around the accuracy of the reports. And also it goes quite deep into quite a lot of behavioral styles. There's 160 competencies or behavioral competencies. So it picks up a lot of nuances that you potentially might not find in other tools, and that's why I like it. What I really love about it, though, is that it's extremely useful for prediction of behavior. So predicting what's going to happen, what's going to be your reaction, how you're motivated, what's your behavior when you're avoiding things, or your stress responses, what's your decision-making style or your communication style. So it helps to anticipate, how you're going to react in situations and who you are in that space. It shows really how people work best, how people are best motivated, and it helps people to understand what they need in a leader. How other people are motivated. So it goes from that saying that we have, treat people how they want to be treated. It's more, like treat people how I want to be treated. It's actually treat people how they need to be treated. So we need to develop that understanding of other people's inner worlds and how they work. And then we can adapt to that. So it's a tool to develop behavioral flexibility And it's really in any world, and if you look at nature as an example of that, it's not the strongest that win, it's actually the most adaptable that win or have the biggest influence. And that's where this tool is so powerful, because we can anticipate how to approach situations and people and then adapt accordingly. What I love about it also, again, it has lots of adaptations in terms of where you can use it. Companies can use it for hiring, in sales, and adapting sales styles, customer service, leadership, career development, team development, and even in personal relationships. So it has a widespread use, and also has many different reports that cater for that, and then pulls in particular competencies that you can look at. So it's quite deep, and it's been it's in 70 languages in lots of countries, lots of profiles generated. So it's quite successful in its own way and has a lot of history and stability behind it. Let's talk a bit about what the reports actually measure. And I want to give you that understanding, because it's not one dimensional, it's actually more than one dimensional. And I don't want to go through all of that because I don't want to overload you with info, but I'll give you to say, we're all born with an unconscious natural behavior, and then the world comes and we need to adapt. That's normal. So that's all part of how we live life. So we have our most spontaneous way of being, and that's the way of being that energizes us the most. It's our natural behavior. It's less stressful. It doesn't require a lot of energy. And then we need to adapt to the world. And it's the tension between our unconscious behavior and how we behave naturally, and how we are most energized, and how we naturally bring our talents and our energy into the world, versus what it is when we consciously need to adapt. And we do need to adapt, but it's understanding what that adaptation looks like and what that is either costing us or benefiting us. That's the understanding that we want to get, and how can we consciously direct that. And so, and are we then in the right situation where we ideally want almost natural and spontaneous mode to be the mode that drives us, and with some overlay of conscious behavior. Otherwise, we're going to wear ourselves out and burn ourselves out. And that's really the two things that I look at here. It's not just about how do you work at your best, but how do you manage your energy? And are you in a role that wears you out all day, every day? And are you feeling stretched and overwhelmed? Are you feeling tired and really tired at the end of the day and burnt out? So are you actually using your energy mode, your most natural energy mode, to your best advantage? Or are you in a space where you are really stretching yourself to a way that's stretching yourself too far? And that's where I come in, and I talk about sustainability as well as health and well-being. It's not just about efficiency. It's also about how well you feel and how congruent you feel with yourself and who you are. And that's really the changes I see in my clients a lot. It's a lot when I feel a lot more aligned as to who they are. So that's really powerful to bring that to people. We're going to play a game now. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I want you to draw a pig. Please draw me a pig. And then when you finish the pig, I want you to hold it up and we'll take a picture. So you give you 30 seconds to draw your pig. Because we've got to know, what style we are. So it's going to be an assessment. And once everyone holds that up, can we take a screenshot? Because we'd love to see everyone's pig. It's the pre-assessment before you know what your style is. So you'll get to know a bit about your style this way. So when we're ready, let me know that you've got your pig ready. Hold it up.
Suddenly I forgot what a pig looks like.
So we've got some piggies here. Oh, cute.
Oh, Ike. That's
oh,
so cute.
Oh, it's got looking cutie pig. Oh, they are so different. How beautiful.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. Fantastic. Everyone's seen your other pig, so let's talk about that. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few statements, and then you can kind of figure out who you are. If the pig is drawn towards the top of the paper, you are a positive and optimistic person. If the pig is drawn, and you can come off mute of this one if you want to, so because then I can hear your reactions, which would be really lovely, actually. So if the pig is drawn towards the middle of the page, you are a realist. If the pig is drawn towards the bottom of the page, you're a pessimist and have a tendency to behave negatively.
Paul drew it on a post-it note.
Well, there you go. If your pig is facing left, you believe in tradition and are friendly and remember dates and birthdays.
Nice.
If the pig is facing forwards towards you, you are direct and you're playing the devil's advocate and neither fear or avoid discussion. If the pig is facing right, you are innovative and active and you neither have a sense of family nor remember dates. If the pig is drawn with many details, you are analytical and cautious and distrustful.
Oh,
If the pig is drawn with a few details, you're emotional, naive, take care little for detail, and take risks. For your pigs. If the pig is drawn with 4 legs showing, you are secure, stubborn, and stick to your ideals. If the pig is drawn with less than 4 legs showing, you're insecure or you're living through a period of major change. Hope you're getting this is not real. The larger the pig's ears you have drawn, the better listener you are. And at last but not least, the longer the pig's tail you have drawn, the more satisfied you are with the quality of your sex life. So there you
What
go.
was the second last? The largest what you have drawn?
You're more satisfied you are with the quality of your sex life.
No, the one before that, the listener one.
Bigger ears, the better listener you are.
Ah.
Yeah. No, that is true. So please don't take it. It's not the real assessment. But this is a way to have a look at whether this is true or not. It's up to you to decide. Pick the ones that work for you. So we won't do that. So let's have
I have an admission. I have actually done that one before.
Yes,
so,
good on you.
so I knew the one where the pig is facing straight at your direct.
It's a direct one. Yes.
Yep.
So, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, so that's obviously not a real assessment, and hopefully some of the ones that you've done in the past don't feel that way. So it doesn't really work that way. It's a lot more sophisticated than the fortune telling that we've just done. So let's dive into it, right? Let's dive into the 4 styles. I'll tell you a bit about them. I make sure I stick to time because I get very excited about the stuff, and I also tell you my style, and maybe you can guess it even. So let's talk about those 4 styles. So there's the dominant style that wants to win, and we'll unpack them a little bit more. I'm just giving you a helicopter view. And then we've got the influencer who wants to be liked. We've got the stabilizer who wants to be comfortable, and the compliance style who wants to be right, and not righteous, but accurate. And when you divide the quadrant into 2 sort of lines, we go vertical, we've got big picture at the front of the house. And then we've got at the back the detailed focus. So it's people who are more into the detail. And if we're looking at the horizontal, we've got facts, outcomes, and results focus. And at the bottom, we've got people and journey focus. So what happens is that we naturally have tension between these 4 styles in the way they believe what's important to them. They believe what matters and how they make decisions and what focus they have and how they talk and communicate. So you'll get tension naturally with that. You're probably going to start wondering, well, am I all 4 or am I 1 or 2? Which one am I? I don't know. So normally the majority of people are 2 styles with a third one sometimes throw in. Only 1% of the population only really has 1 style as their main dominant. And I think I've only met 1 person, so I've met 1 of the 1%. But most people are a combination of 2 styles, and they can go anyway. They can go either top or the bottom or across, either way. And that also has a meaning around how you're mixed. You'll always have 1 energy that we'll call is your most dominant by a certain percentage. So that's what we call your captain or your leading energy. And that's really what you lead with in life. And so that's sort of the 4 as an overview. They all relate also to archetypes. So the dominant style is really the warrior. They charge out, and they want to win and want to make a big difference. And the entertainer or the influencer is really about bringing people along and wanting to be liked and being very engaging. And the stabilizer, the archetype here is the mother. And that is the carer and the person that really deeply cares individually about people and their well-being. And then we've got the compliance style, which is the technician, or the archetype also of the the specialist or the professor. Sort of very much an inch wide and a mile deep in the specialization, and they get a lot of significance from that. So that's really the 4 styles, and how they all interrelate. We'll have a look in a minute. So I'm going to go through them a little bit more detail, but I won't spend an enormous amount of time on them because I want to also open the floor for some questions. And I'm going to just go through a couple of very key elements. So the hunter energy or the warrior energy, which is the dominant energy, you will never miss a person who's dominant because they are quite prominent. They have high energy. And if you're not a dominant style, and by the way, percentage-wise, they are one of the least ones, about 9-15%, you will find yourself getting kind of probably exhausted or tired because they are quite demanding. They are very outcome focused, result and fact focused. They want to win. They can be quite competitive, and they make decisions based on criteria, and they make them very fast. And so they get impatient with people who are slower, who need to think about things, and the most comfortable they feel really in leading positions or in positions where they can create change. So there is two of my best friends are dominant people, dominant women as well. And I have to actually tell them to slow down because sometimes they are just full on, have a full on energy. So they have lots of energy. They can take on a lot of information very quickly and they make very fast decisions. So very competitive, great for driving change. That's really what they're there for. They want to drive change. And that's what makes them, gives them, meaning and makes it significant for them. Again, about 15% of the population, they're the visionary. They don't do detail, and they don't also do what's called small talk too much. Like it's about what's the outcome that you want. So if you're approaching someone who's got lots of D energy, you need to get your facts right, and you need to also know what the outcome is and where they're driving to. What is really beautiful about this style, what I actually love, because I was scared of them for a lot of my life, because they're not very intense, is that once you win a dominant style over, they're very, very loyal. They're actually going to stick with you forever. They are probably the most loyal and I would say most reliable of all of them. They won't waver because once they know a good thing, they're going to stick with it. So once you win them, but winning them can feel like a battle because they're just so dominant and intense, they're really good at, they're very visual. They like to see things. So if you're talking to a dominant style person and you're not showing them something, they will quickly turn off because they want to see stuff. They want to give me a roadmap, give me a picture, tell me what it looks like, but don't talk around it and don't give me too much detail. So they're very much like that. And so that's dominant style really in a nutshell. There really is the focus is what's happening, what's the outcome, and they're very driven and on the goal. So they're really, really great energy to have in a business when it comes to achieving goals, especially big goals. I always go with what do I appreciate about this energy? What does it bring? The next one is the influencer. That's a style that wants to be liked. So we're moving from focus on outcome and project sort of base to, hey, I just want to be with people and I want to be in the journey and I want to entertain. I want to bring people alongside with me. I want to be happy. It's got to be fun or else I'm not in. So that's really where the influencer sits. They're super social, very outgoing. Talking about the MC of the Oscars, that's got to be someone that's like an entertainer style. So lots of people in that entertainment industry are influencers. They're really driven by connection and variety. They don't like things to be the same. The role has to have lots of change in it. It has to be with people. It has to have a people focus, but it can't be detailed, fact driven. So that's sort of their blind spot. And they're really focusing on relationships. Some of the challenges that influencers have is that they can be seen as too superficial or too flighty. They're not sort of going into the detail. They might be missing the relevant information, and they also like it to be nice. So they like to focus on the positive and the good things. And some of the challenges there is that I may not see, the things that need to be addressed, which could be issues. It's really about fun, and there's about 35% of the population are in the influencer space. So there's quite a lot of us out there. This is my second modality. So my primary is stabilizer, which I'll talk about in a minute, but my secondary is influencer, and I've really stepped into that in the last few years. So it is still, again, very high energy, very much about being an extrovert and driving change, loves change and loves variety and adventure. If you talk to influencers, they'll talk a lot about many different things, and that will be very much about the adventure and the journey. They're less about the outcome, but more about being together. So that's really important for them, that we're doing it happily and together, and there's going to be some fun in it. So the ultimate party person as well. The next energy I want to talk about, so we're moving now from the front of the house where you had this really dominant people and people are sort of out there and changing and are change hungry and look to the future and look to what's possible, we're now moving to the back of the house to what is the history, and what is let's not change something that's not working, like let's just stay the same. The energy is called the mother, and that's my primary energy. And really, that energy wants to be comfortable. They don't like sudden change, and would like to know what's coming. They're excellent listeners. You can see here they're warm and calm, very modest as well, and it's all about doing it together. These are people who create families at work. I think it's one of the most core energies, for care in a work environment. They are just beautiful when it comes to knowing people's birthdays, what your favorite food is, bringing you coffee and really caring for you. They can become a bit of a let's call it catch-all to do all the bits that no one else wants to do person, because they're so helpful, and so they need to learn to set up boundaries as well. The challenge with a mother energy and a stable energy is that they don't like a lot of change. I mentioned that before. They don't like fast change, and with that is a resistance to moving fast and moving forward really fast. And so unless they kind of know what's happening and what the snags are, they won't buy into change easily. And we need to bring them along the journey with lots of information and lots of help there, and we can't be too fast. So they will be taking time to be convinced. They may need to think about it, and I won't necessarily make decisions hastily. And so really it's about the detail and how they feel about stuff, and that's really a core thing here. They're very much a feeler and sensing into what's happening. The benefit is that they're just super patient, and they have really good listening skills. And personally, since I've upped my S energy, especially when I'm in organizations, I've had much better results, because I can then pick up all the stuff that I didn't miss by not listening. So certainly S energy is really useful. What's wonderful and useful about them in work as well is that they'll think about, well, what about the legacy? What do we need to take care of when we are moving forward? What is it that's useful about the past? So that they're kind of a holder of history and the holder of the legacy and of the past of the organization, which is also really important. They like consistency. They like consistency in life as well. So they will look for, are you a consistent person? Will you always sort of talk about, yesterday you said you like blue, today you say you like red. I can't trust you because I'm not sure that you're not really being consistent. And they will look for those minute details in you. We do that a lot in Australia. Australia is actually a very S country. We look at that in politics. When someone says 4 years ago this politician said that, and now they're saying this, I can't trust them. So that sometimes they don't adapt to change all that well, and they look for those inconsistencies, and out of that derive how much they can trust a person. So if you are in that space, and you need to understand that what you need is reliability, but you also need to learn how to give, because we can't always be reliable. The last energy style. Now we're getting from the D energy, which is full on and out there, and then we're moving into the back of the house. We've got the S energy, which is already quiet, to the most quiet one, which is the compliance. So that's the person that will do data analysis all day happily. I wouldn't die to do that, but that's the person that will go and delve into the depths of the detail, and will look for the nuggets and analyze, and will not have the big need to talk to people. So they're not very intense as people. They're usually very quiet. They're very much quality and focused. It's all about correctness and precision and quality. So they're the holders of quality. I call it the professor here, but another one is the technician archetype as well. Under pressure, this style becomes quite critical, and they will always ask a lot of detailed questions, which exasperates people who are like in the I space, because they will look for the detail and everything of that. So they're perfect in that space of developing nifty solutions and research and science. Very logical. I call them sort of the Spock of the world. And again, there's not as many of them. There's 15% of the population. So if you're looking at the top, we've got compliant and dominant about 30%, and then the 70% of the world is in the S and the I space as an overall sort of look. They like to think through things, and so they won't necessarily always say a lot in meetings unless they've got a really vested interest. They need to kind of think about it, analyze it, and then come up with the answer. So they will want to see proof, and they won't sort of necessarily move forward, or that energy will want to not move forward unless they've got all the detail, all the facts. That can be challenging if you're in innovative environments, and someone like that will not move unless they know everything, which sometimes you can't. So that's the challenge here. They're also not convinced very quickly when it comes to change. It will take a number of times until they're ready to buy into, you know, what you want. A lot of this is about understanding how people make decisions and how they are convinced and how they then follow through and how reliable and consistent they are with that. And a compliant style will need to know all the information. So if you're approaching someone, you will need to know all your facts. You need to know all your details. You know, so that's really important. That's also how they build trust. They are the type of person that if you say you're going to be there too, be there too. Don't be there 2 or 5. You know, so they will build trust by knowing that you can trust you and that you're reliable. So it's so important to understand really what's happening in the subtext of a person. You know, like you might be thinking it's okay, I'm 5 minutes late, not okay for them, and they'll judge you on that. You know, and so that's really where we want to have more awareness of how we approach different styles that are different to us, and how we can make the most, I suppose, out of that relationship, and understand them in their inner world. So what we're going to do now is, what do you think is your behavioral style? Obviously, I mentioned beforehand, there is, you'll have mostly 2, and you probably think, oh, it could be this, I'm a little bit of that. Just go with your gut and what you think is the strongest. Think about what you talk about all day, think about what you enjoy doing, and then choose that one. So jump on Menti and give me an idea of where do you think you are. Are you an influencer? Do you like to go? Are you the MC and host of a party? Are you a good listener? You know, are you more like a Tesla? Are you more compliant? Are you more of a technician? You know, so chuck in your things. Cool, you've got to have a few C's in here. Oh, there's one. Well, they'll take a while, but you to think about it. And you can see again, like the influencer came first because they make fast decisions, and then they jump in because it's fun. So we've got a.
Hey, Shakti and Vijesh, can you guys? Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Only one C energy in here. That's so surprising. A few D's.
Just one C.
Possibly. You don't always get them in the same space. I actually met one person who was almost 90% C, which was very interesting. I was need to approach them with caution. So there you go. So we've got actually almost a reverse mix. We've got lots of people in the D and I space and less in the S and C space. That sometimes happens. You know, it's not a representative of society what we've got here. But yeah, so you can see there's different styles. We've got lots of I's here. Wow, that's interesting.
Christiane, you got a question from Harsh.
Yes.
Harsh, would you like to ask, unmute and ask, or?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Sorry, what are you saying?
Awesome. I can read it for you. So Harsh asked, I was wondering, based on your experience, if a person's category who likes consistency, focuses on correctness, accuracy, is quite dominant at times, values people, but doesn't trust easily, kind of as a behavior trait. Where would you categorize them?
I would categorize them in the C space, potentially CD. I would, you know, what I'd say is they're quite dominant at times. Depends on how that comes out. Are they asking a lot of questions? Are they asking a lot of detailed questions? That's more in the C space. If they say, hey, I've already made up my mind, let's go and do this, you know, and everyone has to follow, that's more of a D energy. You know, accuracy and detailed accuracy would be more of a C energy. There's a CD style as well. But it depends how fast they're willing to move. You know, if a D energy wants to move really fast and usually gets bored with people thinking about things, because they already made up their mind very quickly, because they can do that, versus a C energy style would take longer and needs to know the facts and data. So can I listen to what they say and listen to the types of questions that they ask? That's really where it comes from. If someone focuses on detail, facts, and accuracy, they're 100% C. And if they spend a lot of their time following up on those facts and actually verifying them, also 100% C. So like not 100, but you know. So what multiple personality disorder? Well, this is the behavior of regular people, normal people. We're not going into, this is not psychiatry. This is like the behavior of, you know, regular, as in people with no mental illness. So this doesn't go into any of that, you know. So no, it doesn't. This is regular people, regular styles. Let's have a look. And thanks for those questions. I just want to give you some idea of how and where these styles thrive. And so the dominant is more attracted to those large projects that make significant impact, because they're really driven by creating change and being seen to create change too. That really like being at the top. A big picture, they can drive change. They don't really worry so much about the how. They're kind of like, let's go there and then you work out how. And they're very outcome focused. So it's a very driving energy. And so we're attracted to things where they can drive and lead. The challenge with dominance is that they will, if they get too tighter, what do you call it, ring fences around them, they'll find that very constraining. So they really want to really be in big impactful sort of, you know, work, and they can handle it. If you think about someone like Branson's very I, but also D, otherwise he wouldn't have been where he was, because he really pushed forward. You know, he's very much an entrepreneur in that space and would have to have D in him and utilize D energy to get to where he's gotten to, and also influence because he's quite fun and he does interesting stuff. So the influencer, you'll see a lot of influencers in change roles, and that makes sense, because they want to bring people along the journey. They're people focused. They like a variety of people, so they like a broad role where they have different challenges and different challenges, and tasks as well. So they're not like a routine energy. They're not like, don't like routine. So you will not find influencers in accounting. Simply won't. They'll just, you know, they'll leave. My mentor, for example, he's an SI, or as me. He's the sort of, you know, trainer in Australia. He started a chemical degree. They worked in chemistry, and he very quickly left and did psychology because he realized that wasn't him, you know. So that's really what happened. So very big picture thinker, and they really enjoy and love change and all that stuff and creating events. The stabilizer, so that's where you come more into, like, a certain amount of predictability needs to be in the role, a certain amount of routine, a certain amount of the same, because they're very much detailed thinkers. They like to consider all points of view. They're actually, in conversations, will always be able to see more than one view. That's a beautiful thing that they bring to teams. What about this and what about that as well? You know, so they're not just of one track. People focus, likes history and legacy. So I always think of a librarian as being a stabilizer, you know, because they are just holders of history and holders of legacy as well. And they bring a beautiful amount of stability to environments where there's lots of change, because, you know, it could wear people out and people get change fatigue. So stabilizer in this space brings that sort of calming element as well, which is really beautiful. A compliance style, they just love specialist technical roles. An inch wide, a mile deep, I can be a specialist in something. They derive a lot of significance from that. And that's really, really important to recognize when you are working in environments that's what they bring. That's part of their identity, is how specialized they are. And you know, especially if you're doing organizational change or role change, to tell a compliant, you're going to be a jack of all trades now, is really going to go against the grain for them. Because they're a detailed thinker and they're really focused on facts and data, you know, so they're data analysts, and a lot of people in accounting are that way, like really precision and quality. They are the holders of quality, and they're also fact focused, you know, so they're not sort of going out there and looking at different things. So very much in that space. So what I want to kind of highlight though is that, as I said, we are more than one style. We are usually two. And you'll find yourself dipping into one or the other depending on what the role needs from you. And then from there on, you can say, you know, I can do this other stuff. For example, so I'm an SI, and I've worked very hard to get a slice of D, which I did. I focused on that. So that was my growth paths. I needed to say, how do I get out of, you know, the fence sitting and liking predictability to create more change in my life? So I actually adopted some of the D style competencies in order to create change, in order to drive things that I wanted out of life. I'm not strong in the C energy, so when it comes to doing my tax, I'll do everything to avoid it. And if I do need to do it, I'll pick like the most auspicious time when I'm not tired and not overwhelmed, or to do it, because I need a lot of energy to focus on that. And that's what I really hone into for you, is how important it is to recognize where your styles is, and then from there on, what energy you need to do the other work. Because we can't just say, oh, I'm an influencer, so I won't do a detail. Life doesn't work that way, jobs don't work that way. We need to be able to dip into the others. And someone asked me that the other day, because I'm working with a team of people who are innovation funnel, and sort of said, well, what if that person is wrong for that role? I said, well, there isn't really anyone that's wrong for a role 100%. If they can do, they need to be able to adapt about 30% of their energy they can do and spend time in the other quadrant. So if I'm a compliant person and I need to do some presenting and teaching, I can do that for a certain period of my time, but I won't be able to do it all the time, because I'll wear out and I get really tired. So we got to kind of realize how we manage people's roles and responsibilities and their energy to the best quality, whilst also stretching them to give them opportunities to grow. So that's really where this is coming from. And it's important to be cognizant of that, because as I said to you in the beginning, I was in the wrong role for 10 years. I was actually a data warehousing specialist for 10 years. So I was doing deep ETL and data analysis. I don't know how I got through that, but a lot of it was because I focused a lot on people and what the data would give them and the change around that. Not so much, I wasn't too keen on writing detailed ETL scripts and coding and so forth, But I realized that now how much of that didn't really match who I was. And it's when I changed 5 years ago and became an agile coach and became a coach and change person, my career has really taken off since then. It's really changed how I engage, and I use a lot more of my more natural skills rather than where I thought I should be, because I kind of fell into the role and then I stayed in the role, and then I kind of got deeper into it, and all of a sudden it's like, I don't really like this anymore. This is kind of not what I want to do. So I slowly changed over time into a role that I actually really wanted, and that took me a few years. But I realized that there was this fork in the road moment where I said I could go deeper into the data warehousing bit and deeper into specialist bit, or I'd become more of an influencer, people type person, work on change and transformation. And I had to kind of understand, well, what is it that actually makes me happy? I think that's the real key here. So I'm going to ask you now, do you think you're in the right role now? There's a few questions here, and I kind of cater to all the styles as well. Let me know what you come up based on what you know right now. Do you feel that you are using your best skills? So quite a few people who say yes, that's awesome. And I suppose what I'm telling you are not necessarily secrets, this is all stuff we intrinsically know, but here's a system you could base yourself on. Cool. That's changes I could make. Yeah, we can always tweak. Realize that in every role we have something that doesn't necessarily work for us, but it shouldn't be more than 20 or 30% of our natural style. Cool. So it's kind of even between I'm not sure or not at all, and then someone wants to think about it, which is also really important. Sometimes there's a lot of information to take in, you've got to kind of mull over it and think about it. So just to give you some idea, there's a link that we can put in the chat. So I've got, at the moment, I'm creating a program, an online program in the future, but right now I'm offering these sort of tips and tricks as a subscription, so you can join, and then I'll send you stuff, and I'll delve deeper into styles, and I'll talk about different things. So you're welcome to join that program. There's not a real program, but it's more, I will teach you some stuff, I'll teach you more, and you can use that for yourself, and that's completely free. It's just for you to kind of be part of this and part of learning it more about yourself. And here's a bit about what people say, and I've just run mindful of time. So a little while ago, I went back to about 20 people I coached in the past, probably beginning of the year, to ask them how they were going. I wanted to understand a bit more about how the time that I spent with them had made a difference in their life, or whether it did at all. So this was I suppose also a valuable moment to sort of see, well, you spent an hour and a half, 2 hours with me, we unpacked your profile, we talked about it. How did you go? And I was super, super surprised how it really helped people incredibly. And sometimes, you're not always sure about the impact that you have on people, but I was really surprised. And here's some of the comments from people and what they experienced. And I felt very humbled, because it's seeing people go and work in a role that actually suits them much better, feeling less like an imposter, feeling more energized with what I do, feeling more authentic. There are certainly one of the leaders I worked with, he thought he's got to be all D energy and strong and, and directive. And he always felt uneasy about that. And then he realized actually more of an IS style leader. He's more collaborative and more with people. And since he could do that, he just felt a lot more relaxed and just a lot more who he could be as a person. And people reacted to that much better. So what I love also is the one that came up with us when you stand up a project team, get everyone to understand their profile, so you know who works best and where's the friction points. I love this tool to anticipate challenges. It's really powerful for that. So we want to kind of anticipate and mitigate issues in communication, as well as I do an exercise with people around unconscious bias and judgment around this, how we're judging others based on their style, because we do it, but we're not necessarily aware of it. And so we can bring that up and say, I'm actually judging you because you're like this, So it's a very, very powerful way of reducing and removing friction for people to move into more performing in their teams and also in their roles, and feeling more successful. I find a lot of women that I work with who are strong D energy sometimes don't embrace it a lot because they feel they might be coming on too strong. That really helps them to feel validated that they are actually real drivers, and that makes a big difference to them as well. And so what I'd love to do now, before we go away, maybe open up to questions, there's some free-form text around what are your key takeaways from this? Like, what resonated with you? Did you learn something new? Did you know this already? And maybe it's not new for you, or it is new for you. Or is there any action that you think you want to take now? Maybe review your career, review how energized you feel at the end of the day. So I'd just love to know, just a couple of sentences, what do you think are your key takeaways from this? The fact that we gain to energize on our dominant energy, and also the others when we need them. Yes, yeah. Lead with your captain. Yes, building a team, absolutely. We need to understand the different energies. It's beautiful ways of understanding, refreshing this and understanding there's an extended version. Yes, it's a deeper version, flexible version. Because this is personality profiling, and it kind of boxes people in and kind of doesn't allow them to be flexible within that. So if we have a chance to extend that, and kind of knew all this before, that's great. Career behavior style, different form. Lots of people have done different forms of profiling in the past. Know yourself better. Beautiful. Cool. Yeah, how we practice decoding others actively. Yes. And then there's ways of doing that. Yeah, what happens if you're a bit of everything? Well, you are usually too, but you can adapt to the others. Then I say myself, so also my colleagues. Yes, it all starts with awareness. If you can have awareness, you have choice. That's how I see it, or it is for these behaviors for the first time. So sometimes it's new. Some people know it. Some people it's completely new. It's quite a deep field. We only really scratched the surface of what this is. So thank you for all your comments. I knew a lot about DISC. Yeah, connect with work and career. Here's something interesting about that, though, because I went back to those people and said, oh, how did it change your career and how did it make a difference? And yes, but this is not what they really wanted to talk about. They wanted to talk about how they felt much happier. They wanted to talk about how they have better relationships with the people that work. They wanted to talk about how they kind of feel more relaxed when at the end of the day, or they feel more congruent. You know, one person said no to a career opportunity because now she knew that this wasn't going to be her path. And so this is quite interesting. You know, that kind of really was secondary. The career was almost secondary to what it is actually that what gave them overall, which was a sense of, I know myself and I can make choices based on that. And I can articulate what makes me happy, what drives me. And I think that was probably the biggest aha moment for me when I went back to them around what it is it meant, what it meant for them. You know, so it's like all things, it's a tool that we can use in order to know ourselves better, in order to understand who we are, and using it as a tool to take practical action. That's really where I see it as powerful. This is me, get in touch. We'll put those links up, and I think I might send an email afterwards as well. So there is my LinkedIn, there's my mobile and email. So if you want to get in touch, by all means, go ahead and do that. And there's this page that I mentioned earlier, so we can put those in the chat later on.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Christiane. Just would you have 5? I know that we are almost nearing 7 o'clock, but just wanted to see participants like 5 minutes of asking some questions.
Sure.
If you have any. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for staying in.
No
feel free to unmute and ask any questions. You have an opportunity. And what she touched, as I told, is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more to it than meets the eyes.
I can't go into detail. We all just get overwhelmed. It doesn't work.
Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions when we have Christiane with us.
Sure.
Christine, does it have a what kind of an inventory of questions does it have to in order to categorize into the various DISC profiles?
It's a good question. It's actually it's only 32 questions, so they're not many, and it's all done online. I can't remember what the questions are, frankly, but they are designed in such a way that you cannot game the system. It'll pick that up, which is really powerful. But it's designed in such a way that you're holding a task that requires concentration in your mind, and then you're answering the questions based on that. And then, based on that, it'll work out what it is that you are strong in.
And does it do time lags as well?
What do you mean
in the questions? So if you don't respond, if you're thinking through the answer,
yes.
So it moderates it that way.
Totally is. You've got to get into it between 10 to 12 minutes. Or else it fails. So you do get enveloped reports of people answering consistently.
Sure.
And, And as far as the other thing it does also, what it picks up on, which I haven't mentioned, it picks up on emotional themes. It picks up how people are feeling, which is what personality profiling doesn't do. It shows whether people are overwhelmed or stretched, or whether something's happening in their life or at work. And also with that, what it helps is to inform whether what you need to do from a change perspective for those people. If there's role unclarity, if there is a feeling of, overwhelm or pressure as well. So it picks up all of that as well, which is sometimes really life affirming for people, because realizing that they are under pressure and that's being fed back to them helps, to relieve that as well and acknowledge it.
So, the correlation factors back to, say, the hexaco models or the ocean models, 5-factor models. Do you know what if it's got strong correlations? Or
not really. I know what the ocean one is. I really like that one, actually. It's that model is really beautiful. No, I don't actually have a strong correlation understanding there. It goes really deep in its own sort of way, but concepts are very similar origin.
Because the compliant or conscientiousness kind of maps quite.
It would, yes.
Quite well on the surface.
And I think they're all interrelated in a way. They all come from a very similar origin of research, of course. So I do find some of them, I think they're all good. It's just how useful are they to what you want to do with them.
Exactly, yeah.
How flexible are they to use? And I think for me, I look for the outcome. Can people have a way of adapting? Can they anticipate their own behavior? Can they be more congruent with themselves and make the right choices? I think that's, for me, is really powerful. And then interpersonal as well. How do we build better relationships? It comes more of it. Any other questions from others just around that?
I really like Ike's pig, actually. Can I see it again?
The what?
I drew a goat, not a pig. I like Ike's pig. She drew very well. Could you please share again, Ike? Oh, look at that.
That is amazing.
And then look at the tail.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I had a question, Christiane. You know how this is beautiful because it allows us to morph and change based on where the energy we can draw from, right? It doesn't put you in a box. What would you suggest as kind of pathways and segues for people who identify with one category but would like to grow into the other? Because you've done that journey yourself.
Yes.
How would you articulate as kind of ways in which you can do it better?
So, well, that's where the report comes in. That's a really good question because really it's about showing what you can do and change and how you can change sustainably. You can change and dip into all energies in the quadrant if you want to. It's more about the awareness of what that would take for you. So if you're a slow decision maker and you want to make fast decisions from now, do that, but it might also, it might take a lot of energy from you and you feel quite tired. So it's about understanding what the growth path is and taking that step by step sustainably if you want to grow in a slow way. So that's what the report actually shows in the end. It gives you that understanding. So that's it's not something you can work out necessarily for yourself. You do need the report itself actually for that to show you step by step, and that's what it gives you. It tells you these are the areas you can develop sustainably without requiring enormous amount of energy, because I think it's about growing in your comfort zone but not stretching yourself so you snap. So this is what's important. We need to be able to stretch in a way that is also allows us to grow consistently, because I think that's very important.
Does it have like from one day to the next a consistency, like the test retest element to it, of you get a consistency of there, and then you choose to change something, and then you'll see the profile in probably 6 months change?
Yes, it does. Yeah, if you're working on, so that's what happened for me. I was more in the X and I style. I worked towards getting the energy in, and so that my profile's changed. Now, your natural and conscious profile won't change all that much in your life at all, because that's what you're born with, and that's who you are, and that's part of your identity. And it colors, the way you see the world. But the adaptive profile does change based on the circumstance. And when I work with organizations, we do a retest every 6 months, especially if people are new to the role.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
I have a question from Harsh, who has this experience of him thinking he's tricking some questionnaires when he has written other tests, not provided this, and any response to that where he has a feeling that that's something he's doing?
Well, the thing is, with this test, you can't trick it. It'll come up. If you're trying to influence the results in any way to either show yourself in a certain light or you want to gamify it, it'll come up and say you've answered those questions inconsistently. So this is why I like the system, because it's got a lot of those tests in build. So you can't trick it. So other systems might let you get away with it, but this one doesn't. So
normally, battery of tests have got all those built into it. All the ones that are hold up through inventories.
Yes, exactly.
Hold up through gaming the inventories.
Exactly. It's just probably the free ones online that don't want to do it all that way. You can just do whatever.
No, they've got. I'd like to see the peer-reviewed studies of it actually, of DISC. I'll do some. I'll just declare myself. I'm actually I've done my undergrad of psychology. Just
Wonderful.
about head into honours. So I've reached out to you actually. So we could talk. Talk a bit later.
Yeah, absolutely. I can also I've got some so every 2 years EDISC does a study of consistency as well, and all that probably the stuff
reliability.
All of that, and looks at consistency of the system as well, and there's lots of R&D that goes into that. So I'm happy to share that with you as well.
Absolutely.
And I'll show you what there is, because that gives me a lot of confidence as well in a system that where someone comes to me with a report, I know about 88% of what's in that is going to be a match to who they are, and that's what I like.
What about against different cultural backgrounds? Because we know we know we have to add in there a lot of the psychological researchers. 85% US in particular, but it's now starting to get a bit broader. Is this a culturally reliable?
Yeah, I can give you the statistics again. It's got goes across different cultures and different countries and different genders as well. It looks at the percentage there. For example, the D energy in males is about 13% and women is 9%, for example. You know,
right.
so and then different countries as well. What I find particularly interesting is the overall dominant energy of a country and how that comes out in the way they treat the people. You know, like Germany, for example, is very S, has got a great social system, and also different energies. And you know, if you can think about America, it's probably more in the D space. You know, so
I'd say the more individualistic countries might be more dominant, whereas the more collectivist sort of cultures probably the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes, yeah. And that's doing our studies as well. They come out every 2 years. I think that one coming out soon. So I'm happy to share that with you, because I think I always like that. It's very interesting to kind of see and then they compare it. There's actually shifts as well in the world. So there is shifts around, you know, are we going more towards D or are we going more towards I? You know, so there is a cultural global shifts too around the percentages.
Yeah.
Absolutely, particularly with the social media being so prevalent and everyone having an opinion these days. And able to voice it.
That too. And also, you know, the influencers. Everyone's an influencer these days. You know, so that's another thing. You know, everyone's a nice time. So there's lots of data and facts and research that goes into it from a consistent perspective and country perspective.
Awesome. Any last question? And Paul, probably you might relate to it since we are talking about culture. Me and Christiane had an hour-long conversation on spiral dynamics and the culture shift and how Keegan has been able to map that. And there is quite a relevance towards how things are moving. So it's interesting to watch.
Absolutely.
Any last questions? I know it's around 17. After that, we officially close.
Okay. I could rabbit on for hours. So
Paul would love to connect. Would love to connect and talk more. But definitely, I think that's a good space to be in.
I love the idea of geeking out on the fact is like, you know, if you live from your main energy, how does it affect your life? You know, like if you're really embracing what you're strong in, how does it affect your life? You know, there's some real power in that. So
absolutely. The statistics around personality traits is predicting behaviour is between 30 to 40% is what they say, but a lot of it is situational. So when you do an inventory of what headspace you're in on that particular day can be different to the next day. So the environmental factors kind of come into play. So that real cross section of nature versus nurture on a particular day.
Oh, absolutely, it is. And I mean, what I like about this system, it predicts stress response. So under stress, I will go with what goes easiest, which is my most natural style, and I'll use the worst sort of that. You know, so you can predict that at a moment of, you know, feeling stressed or under pressure, I will go to what requires me the least energy, which is my natural style behavior.
Yeah,
totally. And so you can predict that in a way as well. And I think that helps.
Particularly under stress.
Yes. So I think that's situational as well. How well do you react? What's your mindset on the day or on the moment to moment, I suppose.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Cool. Any last question before we kind of wrap up this wonderful event? And Christiane, I would like to do a really warm thanks to you, because this is really not just a meetup, right? But this is for people to get in touch with who they are, and that's quite powerful to me personally.
I think amazing speaker next week too. Isn't Emma coming?
Yeah, Emma is coming on. So we are looking forward to Emma coming and talking about a similar. There is kind of a theme happening, November women, powerful women theme as well. We have Jyoti going to speak as well down the road. But looking forward to it. But thank you again, Christiane. Thanks to everybody for coming in and making this even more vibrant. So really looking forward. And Paul, thanks for the value you added as well. Appreciate that. Thank you, guys. With that,
Thank you.
we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you so
See ya.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.